For a moment, this small Dutch company believed it could sit at the same table as Ferrari. Hand-built supercars, aviation-inspired interiors, and price tags so high they almost felt intentional. Spyker wasn't trying to sell cars to everyone. It was selling an idea that exclusivity alone could conquer the automotive world. And for a brief moment, it almost worked. This was the brand that somehow made it into Formula One, dared to take on global giants, and shocked the industry by buying Saab when no one thought it was possible. On paper, Spyker looked fearless. In reality, it was walking a financial tightrope from day one, because behind the polished aluminum dashboards and bold headlines, cracks were already forming. Money was disappearing faster than cars were being built. Big promises kept stacking up, and the risks, they only grew more dangerous. What followed wasn't just a business failure. It was a slow, dramatic collapse, filled with bold gambles, public optimism, and decisions that would eventually pull the entire company under. And the most shocking part? Spyker didn't stop when it should have. Spyker's story didn't begin as a startup fantasy. The name itself carried history. Originally founded in the early 1900s, Spyker had once built luxury cars for royalty and even supplied engines for aircraft. When the brand was revived decades later, it wasn't pitched as nostalgia. It was positioned as a resurrection. This new Spyker emerged in the late 1990s with a bold promise: ultra-luxury supercars, built by hand, with no compromises. The designs leaned heavily into aviation themes, from exposed gear mechanisms to aluminum interiors that looked more like a cockpit than a car. It was different, instantly recognizable, and impossible to ignore. But Spyker wasn't aiming to compete on speed or lap times. It wanted to be rarer than Ferrari, more exclusive than Lamborghini. Production numbers were intentionally tiny. Prices soared into territory that only a handful of buyers could reach. Owning a Spyker wasn't about performance, it was about status. And at first, the strategy created buzz. Auto shows loved it, collectors paid attention, headlines framed Spyker as the most exclusive car brand in Europe. But beneath the surface, the math didn't add up. Hand-built cars meant massive costs. Tiny production meant limited revenue. And every new model required cash the company didn't really have. Still, Spyker pushed forward because admitting the problem would have shattered the illusion. And that illusion was about to be tested in the most expensive way possible. From the outside, Spyker looked like a brand in control. But behind the scenes, every car sold barely kept the lights on. Production delays became common, costs kept climbing, and profitability stayed just out of reach. Instead of pulling back, Spyker doubled down on the image. The company leaned harder into spectacle, believing visibility could solve what volume couldn't. And that belief led to one of the boldest and riskiest decisions in its history. Spyker bought its way into Formula One. At the time, the move stunned the industry. A tiny Dutch supercar maker suddenly appeared on the world's biggest motorsport stage. The logic was simple: global exposure, instant credibility, and a brand halo no amount of advertising could buy. But Formula One is unforgiving. The costs were brutal. The competition was relentless. And despite the headlines, Spyker's team rarely delivered results that justified the spending. Each race weekend burned cash faster than Spyker could replace it. The cars struggled, the points never came, and the marketing boost didn't translate into sales. What was supposed to elevate the brand quietly drained it. And when Spyker finally stepped away from Formula One, the damage was already done, just as an even bigger gamble was forming in the background. In 2010, just as Spyker was running out of room to maneuver, it made a move that left the entire automotive world stunned. Spyker bought Saab, at least that's how it appeared on the surface. a tiny supercar manufacturer stepping in to save a legendary automaker once owned by General Motors. The headlines were dramatic, the disbelief was instant, and the man at the center of it all, Victor Mueller, suddenly became one of the most talked about figures in the industry. Reports claim the deal was stitched together through a maze of loans, last-minute guarantees, and outside investors. From day one, questions swirled about whether Spyker actually had the financial strength to pull this off. Saab wasn't just struggling. It was bleeding money, losing market relevance, and burdened by years of decline. Still, the vision was sold with confidence. Saab would be revived. Innovation would return. Spyker would transform from niche builder into a global automotive player. But reality hit fast. Factories slowed, suppliers went unpaid. Production stopped and restarted again and again. Each delay chipped away at trust, both inside Saab and across the industry. What was meant to be a heroic rescue quickly began to look like a controlled collapse. And once the cracks became public, everything unraveled at terrifying speed. By the time the public realized how bad things were, it was already too late. Saab's production lines stood still for weeks at a time. Workers were sent home. Suppliers cut ties after payments failed to arrive. Each attempt to restart operations came with new promises and new delays. Behind closed doors, Spyker was scrambling. Emergency loans, short-term investors, last-minute deals that were announced with optimism, then quietly fell apart. Reports claim that even when funding was secured, it barely covered immediate debts, let alone long-term survival. The pressure mounted fast, legal disputes piled up, creditors circled, and confidence in the leadership began to crack. What had once been framed as bold ambition now looked dangerously unprepared. Then came the moment everyone feared. Saab filed for bankruptcy. The fallout was brutal. Spyker's reputation collapsed alongside it. Lawsuits followed. Investors walked away. The dream of becoming a global automotive force dissolved almost overnight. For most companies, this would have been the end of the story. But Spyker refused to disappear. And that refusal would turn out to be just as controversial as everything that came before. After the collapse, silence would have been expected. Instead, Spyker kept resurfacing. New announcements began to appear, each one promising a fresh start, new investors, new ownership structures, even a rebrand that suggested the past had been left behind. On paper, it sounded like a rebirth. Then came the electric supercar claims. Spyker teased futuristic models, bold performance targets, and timelines that hinted at a rapid return. Fans wanted to believe. Collectors watched closely. The name still carried weight, even after everything that had happened. But the pattern quickly became familiar. Deadlines slipped. Funding details stayed vague. Production dates came and went without cars. Reports claim that some deals were announced before money had fully materialized. Each delay fueled more doubt. Supporters argued that innovation takes time. Critics said the company was selling hope instead of progress. And with every new promise, the question grew louder. Was Spyker building toward a real comeback, or just chasing its own legend? Looking back, Spyker sits in a strange place in automotive history. To some, it was a symbol of fearless creativity, a Dutch brand that dared to challenge giants and refused to follow safe formulas. The cars were undeniably beautiful. The craftsmanship was real. And for a brief moment, the dream felt possible. To others, Spyker was a warning, a company driven more by ambition than structure, one that mistook attention for stability and belief for funding. The Formula One gamble, the Saab takeover. Each move raised the stakes until there was no room left for failure. Even now, rumors still surface about revivals and new projects. Fans continue to speculate about what Spyker could be if everything finally lined up. But history has made one thing clear. Passion alone doesn't keep a company alive. Spyker refused to die, and in doing so, it pushed itself past the point of survival. What remains isn't just a fallen automaker, but a reminder that in the world of extreme ambition, the line between vision and fantasy is thinner than anyone wants to admit. And that's the legacy of the Dutch Ferrari that wouldn't let go. Even years later, Spyker's name still sparks debate, and that alone says a lot. Most failed car brands fade quietly. Spyker didn't. Court cases dragged on. Public statements kept coming. Ownership structures shifted, and every time the brand resurfaced, it carried the same promise. This time will be different. Reports claim that behind the scenes, disputes over debt, licensing, and intellectual property slowed everything down. The brand existed more on paper than on roads. Yet announcements kept dropping just often enough to keep the legend alive. Some insiders suggested Spyker's biggest problem was never design or engineering. It was scale. Ultra-low production made the cars rare, but it also made survival nearly impossible. Each vehicle needed to be perfect, profitable, and on time. And too often, it wasn't. And that's why, even today, the story refuses to stay buried. If you love diving into the rise, fall, and stubborn comeback attempts of Spyker, there's so much more history and hidden stories waiting for you. Hit that subscribe button at Dear Old Holland and join us as we uncover the most fascinating tales from Dutch innovation, ambition, and the unexpected twists that history doesn't always tell. Don't miss the next story. Subscribe now and stay part of the adventure.